Hello, my name is Linda. I am 37 years old and work from home. My husband Jonathan and I have been happily married for 5 years. Although we don't have children yet, our dual-income household has allowed us to enjoy life's little pleasures like traveling and dining out. Now that I work remotely, I've taken on the household responsibilities, which lets Jonathan concentrate fully on his career. Over the weekends, he lends a hand at home, and together we've found a nice rhythm to our marriage. Jonathan and I first met at a group blind date. His warm, inviting smile caught my attention right away. After dating for 3 years, we decided to get married. Jonathan has continued to be a rock of support, always lifting my spirits with his endearing smile. Despite the joys we share, our marriage faces challenges, notably from my in-laws. Jonathan's family owns a thriving pasta shop that his father established 17 years ago after quitting his corporate job. The business has flourished, opening several branches across the city. When I first met Jonathan's parents, they were clad in flashy designer clothes, which seemed more about making an impression than reflecting their personal style. Our initial encounter was when Jonathan and I visited to share the news of our engagement. Right from the start, I sensed their disdain. They made it clear that any daughter-in-law would suffice as long as she could manage household duties and stay out of trouble. Yet they also hinted that I might be lacking in fortune, which was quite blunt. Jonathan stood up for me immediately, which led to a slight improvement in their behavior. It was clear they were forthright people, perhaps a common trait among those in the culinary business, especially pasta shop owners. Luckily, Jonathan is consistently supportive, offering reassurance and standing by my side. Despite the security Jonathan and I share in our relationship, knowing that we can rely on each other even if I were to lose my job, the interactions with his parents occasionally strain our happiness. However, I've chosen not to let their opinions affect me deeply, especially since Jonathan has repeatedly apologized for their rude behavior. He has reassured me that our dealings with them can be limited to significant family gatherings. It seems Jonathan has had a long-standing strained relationship with his parents. I learned that his father, a stubborn man who once struggled in a conventional job, became rather arrogant after his pasta shop took off. He would often interfere in Jonathan's career decisions, demanding respect due to his role as the family's financial provider. Jonathan's discomfort around his parents led him to move out when he started college. Although he is grateful that the profits from the pasta shop helped fund his education, enabling him to land a job at a prestigious company, he remains distant from them. He hopes to repay them for their financial support but prefers to keep his interactions minimal. Since our marriage, I've barely met with my in-laws, a distance maintained partly because Jonathan and I don't yet have children, which has allowed us to avoid frequent family meetings. We've been content in our married life, but lately my in-laws' business has suffered financially. Previously, a pasta shop could thrive on good food alone despite a gruff owner. But times have changed, with online reviews and social media now playing a significant role in shaping a business's reputation. Their shop has been hit with numerous negative reviews. Complaints about the owner's curt demeanor and the untidy service from the waitstaff have become common. It appears their initial success led to complacency, which is now costing them dearly in terms of customer satisfaction and business viability. Despite the initial success of their pasta shops, my in-laws' business took a steep downturn. Their dishes, once popular, began to be unfavorably compared to instant ramen. Negative reviews multiplied quickly, damaging their reputation severely. Unwilling to adapt to changing times, they persisted with outdated methods and attitudes, which inevitably led to the closure of their shops, including the flagship location. Realizing the severity of their predicament, they uncharacteristically sought help from their son, my husband Jonathan. In a desperate plea, they said, "Jonathan, please help us. At this rate, we'll end up on the streets." Jonathan had seen this coming and responded with a mix of frustration and wisdom. "It didn't work out, did it? I warned you that arrogance would have consequences. You must understand that customers are paramount, and if you treat them carelessly, it will come back to haunt you. You dismissed my advice as naive before, but this mess is of your own making. You need to reflect on your actions." His words, though stern, shocked me. It was unlike the kind-hearted Jonathan I knew, yet I could sense his deep love and concern for his parents. His firmness was a testament to his admirable character, making me fall for him all over again. Despite their plea, Jonathan firmly told them that relying on us wouldn't solve the root issue, which was their attitude and business approach. Crushed by his blunt refusal, they left, only to return a month later, looking defeated and stripped of their luxury items. "Even after selling all our branded goods in the car, the debt is overwhelming. Please, Jonathan, we don't have anyone else to turn to," they begged, their pride swallowed in their desperation. As my husband stood there, arms crossed, contemplating what to do next, I felt a complex mix of emotions. While I had never been particularly fond of my in-laws, seeing them so humbled and desperate stirred a mix of pity and reluctance in me. The situation underscored the complexities of family ties and responsibilities, challenging us to find a balance between support and enabling poor decisions. Seeing my in-laws in such dire straits stirred something within me, compelling me to suggest, "Jonathan, what about sending them a monthly allowance?" My suggestion caught both my husband and his parents off guard. They looked at us with a mix of surprise and disbelief. "Linda, are you sure?" Jonathan asked, his voice tinged with astonishment. "Yes," I affirmed. "You've always wanted to repay them for helping you through college, right?" Jonathan hesitated, then nodded, recalling his past intentions. "Well, I might have mentioned something like that." At this point, his parents, seizing the moment, pleaded once more, their heads bowed deeply. "Jonathan, please, we'll work hard to pay off our debts. Can you at least support our living expenses?" After a brief moment of contemplation, Jonathan agreed. Initially, he decided to transfer $3,000 monthly to them. However, feeling a sense of urgency to help them stabilize and rebuild their lives, I suggested, "Maybe we should adjust that amount to $3,000 a month, Jonathan." He was hesitant at first, telling me that $3,000 was enough, but I insisted. My career had blossomed beyond my regular job. I had become quite adept at investing in stocks and real estate. Over the years, I had accumulated significant wealth, enough to purchase luxury apartments and earn a substantial income from these rentals. Unbeknownst to my in-laws, my annual earnings had reached about $580,000, giving me considerable financial flexibility. I chose to keep these details private, especially from my in-laws, as I funneled a bit more money to support them through Jonathan. This was as much for his peace of mind as it was for their financial aid. The in-laws, overwhelmed by our support, expressed their heartfelt gratitude during one of their visits. "Jonathan, thank you so much. Thanks to you, our life is slowly stabilizing," they acknowledged. Witnessing their genuine appreciation and seeing them start to turn their lives around was deeply satisfying. It underscored the impact of generosity and the importance of family support, even in the most challenging times. The gratitude from Jonathan's parents initially made him visibly happy, and we both hoped it would motivate them to find jobs and start repaying their debts. However, a month passed, and they still hadn't secured any employment. A more pressing issue soon emerged. They began visiting our house frequently during weekdays. "Our food expenses are mounting, Linda. Could you possibly spare us something to eat?" they would ask, starting to come around lunchtime. Initially, they simply ate and left, but recently they've taken to lounging on the sofa after meals and even requesting desserts. "Is this arrangement working for you, or would you like some adjustments?" I inquired one day, feeling the strain on both our pantry and my patients. My work was beginning to suffer from their interruptions. "I have work too, so I'd appreciate it if you didn't stay too long," I told the in-laws as my professional responsibilities were increasingly compromised by their extended visits. The in-laws exchanged looks and laughed dismissively. "Work? Aren't you always at home? If you're going to lie, at least make it more believable." they scoffed, chuckling among themselves. Perhaps because of their long history in the food and beverage industry, they seemed unable to grasp the concept of remote work. I tried explaining it to them in detail. Remote work means I operate from home using my computer to complete tasks just as I would in an office setting, I clarified. But they brushed it off with a wave of the hand. We don't understand all this computer stuff, they admitted, showing no interest in trying to comprehend further. No matter how clearly I outlined my busy schedule, they seemed indifferent. Linda, we're out of tea. Hurry up and go buy some. Don't you have any snacks? Prepare some rice crackers or something, they demanded increasingly, as if I had nothing else to occupy my time. Their criticism became personal and harsh. Such a useless daughter-in-law. For a housewife, you're inconsiderate, they criticized, not realizing the impact of their words or promises to work and repay their debts. This situation highlighted a growing tension and a stark misunderstanding of boundaries and professional commitments within our family dynamics. Despite their assurances that they were earnestly searching for jobs, my in-laws continued to encroach on our home during the day, always making sure to leave before Jonathan returned from work. Perhaps they felt a twinge of guilt for relying on the financial support he provided, or maybe they wanted to avoid awkward questions about their job search progress. Is this situation manageable, or do you need any changes? I eventually asked as I reached my breaking point. Even though I was contributing a significant amount of the money we gave them, I couldn't fathom why I deserved to be treated with such disrespect. One day, driven to the edge, I confronted the in-laws with a firm request, "Please leave now." They were shocked, not expecting such a direct challenge from me. But quickly their shock turned to anger, their faces flushing with indignation. "Who do you think you are? A mere wife giving orders to your husband's parents?" They snapped back. "And you're just a housewife dependent on Jonathan's income. How many times do we have to tell you that we're not interested in your delusional stories about working?" They continued, their voices rising. I stood my ground, frustration and disbelief building up. "I'm not just a housewife. Enough of your outdated views," I retorted. Then, with malice in their eyes, they struck back with a hurtful suggestion. "You should just leave this place," one of them said sharply. "What?" I exclaimed, shocked by their audacity. "That's right. It's because of you that Jonathan's remittance to us is so small. You know we're sending you $3,500 a month, right?" "What do you mean it's not enough?" they argued, clearly missing the point of financial responsibility. Their words left me speechless. It seemed that they were the type who, no matter how much you helped, would never see it as enough. Their sense of entitlement had blinded them to the reality of our efforts and the strain their demands were putting on our lives. As I stood there, shocked by the turn of events, my in-laws glared at me with chilling disdain. "Hey, how long are you planning to stand there daydreaming? Pack your bags already, huh? Don't you understand what we're telling you? You are dense, aren't you? We're telling you to stop leeching off our son for money. Get lost, you parasite of a wife," they sneered venomously. Their words cut deep, and I realized that any further conversation was futile. Resigned, I replied with unexpected calmness. "Understood. I'll pack my things and leave." To my surprise, my declaration seemed to stun them momentarily. They then smiled smugly, convinced they had secured a victory. "Now our lives will finally be secure," they chuckled among themselves. If it was just the three of us, Jonathan and us, everything would have gone smoothly from the start. Ignoring their hurtful remarks, I began to pack my belongings. "I'll disappear as quickly as possible," I resolved silently, watching them leave with a look of satisfaction. That night when Jonathan came home, I explained everything that had transpired. He was more stunned than angry. "Linda, I'm truly sorry," he apologized sincerely. "It's okay, now I realize they'll never change. It's good to know there's no point in trying anymore," I consoled him. Together, we decided to move out. A couple of weeks later, the in-laws called to check on the situation. "So what's the situation now? Have you left the house?" "I've been trying to contact Jonathan about the remittances, but he seems too busy to answer the phone," they inquired, barely concealing their eagerness. "We've already left, so you can rest easy." "You won't see me in front of you anymore," I replied coolly. I could hear the glee in their voices as they responded, "Ah, I see, finally, our son can get rid of the burden that was you." Hearing their laughter, I realized how liberating it was to finally be free from their manipulative grip, confident in the strength and resilience of our small family unit, and ready to start anew without the weight of their expectations and judgments. Now, with the promise of increased remittances from Jonathan, my in-laws were visibly pleased, laughing about how their lives would now become easier. As they continued to ridicule and celebrate over the phone, a sigh escaped me, and I responded with sharp clarity. "You had a lot to say about me, didn't you? It might be enlightening for you to realize who the real parasite is." Hearing my words, their tone shifted to anger. "With that attitude, you truly are a hopeless daughter-in-law. Well, you're probably not even our daughter-in-law anymore. You might as well live a poor and lonely life," they snapped back. Their delusions were so profound that I saw no point in correcting them. I offered some non-committal replies and ended the call. Shortly after, the phone rang again. "Do you need something else?" I asked as soon as I picked up. My in-laws, now sounding panicked, bombarded me with questions. "What the hell is going on? When we went to the apartment where Jonathan lives, someone else was living there. You know something, don't you? Even if you two broke up, tell me where Jonathan is," they demanded. Jonathan, who had been listening in, took the phone from me. "I've always been with Linda," he stated firmly. "Why are you with that woman, and why have the remittances to us stopped?" They continued to interrogate. "Maybe because you insulted and tried to drive away my precious wife. I won't forgive anyone who hurts her, even if it's my parents," Jonathan replied, his voice steady and resolved. "Besides, you never listened when Linda tried to explain her job and her contributions. Did you even realize that Linda was sending you more money than I was?" "Is that true, Linda? Were you sending them $3,500 every month because you wanted them to pay off their debts quickly?" Jonathan asked, turning to me. "Yes," I confirmed. "I wanted to help speed up their debt repayment, yet all they did was insult me, calling me useless." "I won't be sending anything to such ungrateful parents," Jonathan declared, ending the call. With that, we both felt a chapter close, a chapter filled with unappreciated sacrifices and undue criticism. It was a painful but necessary step toward protecting our peace and prioritizing our well-being as a couple. My husband declared firmly, "I'm cutting ties with you as a family now. Deal with your debts on your own." In a moment of desperation, my in-law pleaded, "Wait, I had no idea Linda was contributing so much. Can you forgive us if we apologize? Maybe then you can send money again." "It's too late, just give it up," Jonathan replied, his voice resolute as he ended the call, and then blocked my in-law's number, ensuring that our paths would no longer cross. From what we later heard through relatives, our in-laws were forced to sell their house but still couldn't clear their debts. They now live in a rundown apartment, working low-wage jobs to scrape by. When they were prosperous with their restaurant, they reportedly treated their relatives with arrogance. Once their fortunes turned, they sought help from these same relatives, who chose not to assist them, leaving them isolated and struggling in poverty. Jonathan and I had extended as much support as we could manage. We can't cover for them endlessly. It's a consequence of their actions. I doubt they'll change their ways or attitudes, and it seems they are resigned to live with the results of their choices. On a brighter note, Jonathan and I continue to cherish our time together as a working couple. A year later, unexpectedly, I became pregnant. Although it was surprising, we are deeply grateful for this blessing. Together with my beloved husband, we look forward to raising our precious child and embracing the new chapter of our lives filled with hope and joy. Does this revised narrative meet your expectations, or is there anything else you'd like to adjust?